Okay, it's preparing. It'll just take a second and then we'll be all set.
Are we good to go? Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I'll wait.
We're all set. There we go.
Okay, great. Next item on the agenda is subcommittee and task force updates. So first we'll move into 5.1, cultural policy update. So the committee did meet on Monday and proceeded with some proposed revisions to the cultural policy. We're about halfway through. And we'll probably be having another meeting in August just to firm things up. The revisions, Todd, are we going to be able to? Yeah, you're going to send those out to the rest of the subcommittee before the next meeting. Is that correct?
Yep, it'll be out tomorrow.
Great. Oh wow, fast. Great. So if you weren't able to attend the subcommittee meeting, if you're on it, don't worry. Those notes will be into your inbox shortly. And after that meeting in August, we'll probably have a draft to bring back to this larger committee for further consideration. I don't know if there's any questions or comments, or if there's anything else to add to that from other committee members.
No, we just had a hearty discussion on definitions of culture. So that's why we're only halfway through.
I think it's the weediest part to get through.
We're getting there.
It's the kind of what everything hinges on. So we've been spending a little more time to make sure we kind of got that right. And I think the rest will go much quicker.
Great. All right. Are there any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 5.2, public art policy update. And I don't have that update, so I will toss it to Virginia, looks like, or Todd. Yeah.
Thanks, Sean. So we have all the feedback from the committee members on that. We're just compiling and doing the final revisions of that, and we should have that out for review in August for the committee, and then hopefully, if everything is okay from the committee in September, have that in front of council. And
wonderful.
I think that's pretty good progress on that. So.
Fantastic. Oh, and related to the connection between 5.1 and 5.2 is one of the things that has been proposed for the cultural policy is also just embedding a reference to the public art policy so that those two policies feed into one another. All right. Any discussion? Seeing none. We will move on to item 6, new business. So this would be the brainstorming for ideas, particularly related to budget and for staff consideration or activities related to the budget. Now, I'm not sure if this is something that folks feel like they've come with ideas ready, or if this is something that we want to have more consideration of, or if this is an ongoing discussion. Certainly, as I recall now, the idea was that it's wise for us to begin these discussions early because budget deliberations begin in the fall, quite early, if I'm not mistaken. Todd?
Sorry, Sean. Yeah, I just recall now as well in that conversation that we were looking at, well, what else could we get budget for in the arts and culture? And I had just thrown out there that we're still not quite at our target from the cultural plan of the per capita spend for arts and culture. So I think that was kind of where we ended it, and then we were gonna pick up from there to see kind of what we could do to reach that goal as well.
Larry?
That was what my mind went to when I saw that. I forget what amount we would receive, we would budget in order to reach the per capita as compared to last year. Do you know that just off the top, Todd?
I think we're at $3 per capita. I think the target was $5. So we're if we doubled again, we'd probably be in really, really good shape. Or I think maybe 50 to 70,000 would get us to that. I'd have to check the numbers again. That's just completely off the top there. But I think that's something that if we can work towards, we're getting so much more engagement with the community now and awareness of upcoming with the new ACAP funding and that. So I think we're going to have a lot of more people coming out and participating in this. So I think we'll find maybe in the next couple of years that our applications will be far exceeding our budget once again, as far as arts and culture, once everybody's aware.
Thanks, Todd. Larry again?
Yeah, we're living in such uncertain times that I'd be concerned about going and asking to bring us right up to the $5 or whatever it is. But maybe we could ask for an amount that will, over a period of 4, 5, 6 years would get us there. We don't have to do it all at once. We have to respect the many demands that are being made, particularly in these times. But it's interesting. A lot of people are moving into town. And I think this is a pretty important thing, a piece. And it is made more important, I think, because of the cultural tourism piece that the city is working on. Tourists aren't going to come here unless we have a healthy cultural life. And anyway, that just seems to me like a more sensible way to go about it. But let council know that we're not looking for instant coffee sort of thing to bring us right up there, but to do it gradually over a period of time.
Thanks, Larry. Virginia, did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I was just going to add in kind of along what Larry was saying. In 2020, we had asked for an increase of $101,200. Council granted us half of that portion of it, so we got $50,600 in that request. And then again, last year we got a portion of our request as well. So we increased that for another $40,000 that's been allocated towards public art. So we have seen an increase of $90,600 over the past 2 years, which has been great, to see that type of increase. So again, the intent would be to put that increase forward as part of the budget process. We do actually, our budget timelines are way in advance. So our operating increases go in August 6th. So this is very timely. So the intent would be to put that increase forward again this year. And then in our explanations, we talk about what areas those would be allocated to. So again, looking probably to increase the arts and culture assistance program funding, or do we put more into public art? I think that's part of the discussion with the committee right now, is to say, if we're making that request, which stream do we want to be allocating those funds to at this point in time? And then we can identify that in our service level change request form for consideration.
Thanks, Virginia. Is there anybody who hasn't spoken yet who'd like to speak to this? Donna, then Heather.
So thank you, Sean. I'm wondering if you said August 6th, Virginia?
That's our internal, our timeline for the request forms. They do get tweaked, and that kind of a little bit after that date as they go forward through the finance committee in that process. So, you know, we can put that placeholder and information in now, but we do have some flexibility with tweaking it a little bit after the fact.
So what I'm thinking about right now, and I don't have the materials in front of me, I should be better prepared, but I feel like what I would like to do is I would like to, with the I guess recommendations from yourself and Todd, et cetera, but I would like to go back to the plan, the cultural plan, and keeping in mind about the cultural tourism side of things, because I think that they are directly connected, as Larry mentioned, and some of us were in a meeting earlier this week with regards to that. I feel like we should, could we plan a meeting just to discuss a strategy around what it could look like to build it out over, let's call it, I don't know, maybe 3 years. I get very impatient, but you know, like what, I feel like just talking about a year at a time, even though I understand we can only request a year at a time, I feel like we need to, I would love to have, with everyone's input, and maybe now we could get in one room, how amazing would that be? But that we could actually strategize around, say, looking 3 years out and saying, what could we see happening in 2022, in 2023, in 2024? And so because I think I'd like to have much more discussion with all of you about like what's really going to have the greatest impact. Is it public art? Is it public art and some other things that, you know, I don't even think we've had a chance to discuss yet. And some of those ideas came up in the meeting on, I think it was Tuesday, or they came up in my head anyways, when I was looking at or when I was hearing about the trends in cultural tourism, and I was hearing about just sort of other things that could really help us like have a solid plan that even though we can only ask for 1 year at a time, we could be more strategic about that. And we could, in our own minds, envision something past that. That's going to make a marked difference in how the community looks and drive us towards those goals of vitality and richness in culture and attracting more tourists and all of that. So I feel a little bit, I feel unprepared to really say which way we should go, because I think we would all benefit from a discussion just about that and looking at what was in the plan, looking at what we've accomplished so far, and then what would be the priorities we would set for funds and how we would use them in the next 2 to 3 years. That's what's going through my head right now.
Thanks, Donna. Just before I head over to Heather, I just wanted to mention that a 3-year strategy is probably a good idea, because that actually aligns perfectly with the time frame of the community cultural plan. It goes till 2024. Heather?
I'm going to backtrack on what I was going to say, because I liked what Donna said. And I agree. It's, you know what, having a plan for 3 years and figuring out what those priorities are and where those dollars should be allocated is really important. And not just all of a sudden it's budget time and we have to make some decisions. I think we need a plan. Yeah, I agree. So I'm going to backtrack on what I said and agree with Donna.
Thanks, Heather. I'm going to put myself on the speakers list, and then I see Larry, then Kathy. Or actually, Larry, do you mind if I just put Kathy ahead of you just because she hasn't spoken yet? And so, and you know, with myself on the speakers list, just in case anybody needed to be reminded, my voice doesn't actually carry any more authority because I'm the chair. I'm just sharing my opinion. I'm one among 6 other members. But I really like that idea. I think it makes a ton of sense. And there's so many things within that even have, like, I mean, cost range estimates within the cultural plan that we know we don't have the existing budget for, that we as a committee should really be strategizing about how we guide council to achieve this as well. That said, in the tight time frame that we have for, before August 6th, I would, personally, I feel like the increasing the ACAP assistance is really, really important, just because that goes directly to arts community groups and artists who've been hard hit, and are, a lot of them might actually be really more dependent on that kind of assistance coming out of this year than compared to previous years. Kathy, then Larry.
I just wanted to say that after being involved in the cultural plan and now this cultural tourism strategy, that I fully agree, and that when we formulate a plan going back to those plans and strategies, plus the strategic plan for the city and how there is a cultural vitality pillar, how then I think it just makes it a more solidified plan when we're reverting to those documents and sticking to what we had said and trying to carry those out. And a 3-year plan is not far off, like Donna said. And there's so much coming forward on that we discussed even just on Tuesday with cultural tourism that I think, yeah, further discussions in my head and is all I wanted to say.
Thanks, Kathy. Then Larry, and then I want to check in with Katie, because I know you're on the phone, so I don't know if you can actually raise your hand. Larry?
Yeah, I respect and accept Donna's 3-year interval. I think, I'm not familiar enough to know what's best, but it makes sense if you have the strategy that ties back into the policy that council's already accepted, and we haven't, and we let them know that we're not just asking for as much as we think we can get, that there's a reason for this. And I think, I don't know whether we can cover all this in one meeting, talking about, the strategy and so on, but get started and do something, start anywhere. But it strikes me that for the next couple of years, the question, a lot of the issue is going to be to help arts groups start up again and get going. I mean, we're going to be dealing with a lot of vitality in its most basic sense. So to have a strategy to justify what we're asking for and tie it to the policies they've already accepted makes a lot of sense to me.
Thanks, Larry. I'm going to go to Virginia, but first I just want to check in with Katie because she hasn't had a chance to chime in. And she asked a question in the chat if *6 is what to press to unmute. I think it is.
Hi, Sean. I was able
great.
to. Thank you very much for providing that information. I definitely agree with Donna. I think having a plan for 3 years out, and if the goal is to reach $5 per capita, then maybe we incrementally increase over the next 3 years until we reach that goal. But I think that it's a great idea to be thinking farther out than just 1 year at a time.
Awesome. Thanks, Katie. Now, Virginia?
Yeah, I was just going to add in, so the form that we have for filling out the operating increase, we do get to put in the 3 years for funding, which we did the past 2 years. So again, it all depends on what level the funding is provided at. So originally, like I had indicated, we had asked for 101. We received the 50,600, so half. And then again, last year we received half of the request as well. So the remainder, just to give a little bit of perspective, the goal coming out was to try to get to 305,000 in funding. We're up to 144.5. So we have 160,500 before we hit that target. which we can then spread out over a 3-year request on the capital or the operating increase form that I'll be filling out. Again, how we earmark that, I think we have some room. So, you know, we may not know by August 6th or the next meeting what exactly we want to allocate that to, because we won't have the cultural tourism strategy completed at that point. But, you know, moving into next year, we'll have a better idea, but we can kind of, you know, earmark that over the next 3 years. And then kind of tweak it over August, I guess, later on, once we have a bit of an idea as to how we want to maybe allocate those funds.
Thanks, Virginia. And just a clarification on that point. So you already have a number that could be used for you know, an ask for this year based on what you were projecting from last year for the 3-year trajectory. Is that right?
Yeah, so originally we had asked for, we were looking at 101 and then 87 and 87, which we then tweaked in our request last year. So based off of what we received to date, we can look at tweaking that further and spreading that amount out over the remaining 3 years for the request. Or we can, you know, see where we want to end up this year and then spread out over the next couple years. So.
Great. And I don't know if there's any further comment. I do have one thing to say there. Oh, I'll go to Donna first.
Thanks, Sean. This is getting me thinking about a couple of things. I would be thinking that one of the benefits among, in my opinion, many, about having, you know, like really getting to the nitty gritty on what we want to ask for is that we can be more results oriented in our request. So we're being accountable for what we're asking for. We're saying that, you know, with this, we can do X, Y, and Z, which would create or develop or inspire or whatever. Like we're tying it more to some specific vision or result or goal or objective or all of those things. It's very deliberate what we're looking for because we're trying to achieve something over those few years. And I'm thinking if we do that and we are very connected and very strong in what we're asking for and why we're asking for and what it's going to deliver, that request can be somewhat more compelling at budget time, that people can see, we can help people see, we can help council see, and we can help the community see what we envision and what it could look like if we were to invest their money on the community side, right? If we were to invest their money in these ideas, this is what would be our goal in terms of what would happen. A question I have for Virginia is, can we request capital? I got to be reminded of this. Can we also request additional capital money outside of operating funding, or are we only in the operating funding stream?
I guess we technically could put a capital request through for one-time funding. So capital would be, a one-time ask for something. Whereas operating increases are going to provide it on an ongoing basis after council approves it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So it would be project-based, I guess, then, if there was something specific that we needed to look at doing that for.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. One of the things, this is just a general comment on strategy in terms of asks, and I know that this is not what staff have done, but just, you know, if there's an impulse to be cautious about what we ask for, I would caution against being cautious because we don't know what next year holds or the year after that. So while it might seem like maybe this isn't the greatest window just because we're coming out of the pandemic, all of these other factors, you know, who knows what will happen next year or the year after that could narrow that window. So I think it's important for us to swing big every time. Andrea?
Yeah, I would just, I've been listening, and I think the planning element is great, but I don't think being conservative in the ask is great. If you're seeing that you're consistently getting half of what you're requesting, then you need to request more. And I think trying to get up to that full goal, because you can already report on how big of an impact the increase is having. So if you can extend that impact further faster, why not? I mean, and with inflation, that money's not going as far anyway. So I would be more for trying to ask for more sooner. It will have a bigger impact, and otherwise we're still going to be behind everywhere else, because their rates are going to go up. And yeah, so I'm not for the conservative approach to asking.
Thanks, Andrea. Are there any other thoughts or comments related to this discussion? Larry?
My concern is just that they not roll their eyeballs when we make a request, that it's well justified. And so I guess what the comment of swinging big means, let council use its discretion on what it can afford.
Right, and I think
but ask for as much as you can get.
Yeah,
well
and
justified.
Absolutely, and I think that we do have a strong justification for large asks rooted in the cultural plan, and it will be up to council to determine, how close we get to that that target. Any other, Virginia?
So with all of that being said, is there like a magic number that I should be entering in for year one? Like, are you thinking like 100,000 of the remaining 160, or?
Andrea?
I'd say 160 of the remaining 160, personally.
Yeah. Are there any other comments? Larry?
So maybe it's the way that you word it. And, I'd have to think about it a bit, but just in a gross sense, this is what we require in order to meet the objectives of the policy. Not this is what we want.
Mm-hmm.
And go at it in a soft manner.
I just want to check in with Katie again, because I know she can't actually raise her hand.
Hi, Sean. I'm not sure. This is like my first time participating in this type of discussion, but if we are getting 50% of everything that we ask for each time, maybe increasing the ask so that when they give us 50%, it's what we actually want. That's my thoughts.
Okay. Thanks, Katie. And also don't worry about first time or anything like that. Your voice is as important as everybody else's at this table.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts or comments? Okay, so yeah, I mean, if it matters, I also, sure, why not? Let's ask for 160, and I think that, I mean, and I don't mean that glibly, because I think that, I mean, this is the target. The target is to reach this $5 per capita investment, and we have sound rationale for it, rooted in the cultural plan, and if anything, I think that we could potentially make a case that this estimate may be conservative based on the fact that we have the cultural tourism strategy that's emerging, which I imagine will likely have some sort of infrastructure or funding streams tied to it, or funding opportunities tied to it, that it would make sense for us to really be accessing a wider, accessing those funds sooner rather than later, so that we can make those investments that will also build out the cultural sector within this community, and ensure that we start seeing even greater returns within the cultural sector. All right. Any other? Now, to that point, though, we do want to get together to have that meeting. I don't know, what do people feel? Should we try to brainstorm some dates while we have each other here, or should we leave it to a doodle poll or something like that? Just opening it up. Any thoughts?
Well, we don't have everybody here, so, you're going to have to do a doodle anyway, probably.
That's very true. Any other thoughts? Andrea?
I'm just like completely booked till the end of July.
Okay. Oh, yeah. No, I can't do anything until August 4th. So after that, yeah. I mean, not that I'm critical to that, but I imagine a lot of us are pretty booked up for the remaining weeks. So sometime in August is probably. Do we want to meet in August, or is this something that's, given we have a potential ask going in for the August 6th deadline, did we want to defer this until September? I'm fine for August. I'm okay. I see some head shaking. No, we'll aim for some time in August. I appreciate the. Heather?
Yeah, it says on the agenda the next one is scheduled for September, so we probably should keep that separate from the next meeting and just focus on that. So yeah, I think a doodle poll sending out dates would be great, and then that way people that couldn't be on the call right now, because we want as many people on there as possible, right?
And we might even be able to get there in person. And Donna?
Oh no, I was just gonna say, thanks, Sean. August 6th is the 3-week stage 3 potential things could change again time. So we might be, I believe that we could, the size of the group we are, even before August 6th, although don't quote me. I'm pretty sure though we could get together in person even now. However, perhaps after August 6th, the restrictions will be hopefully further reduced and or completely removed. And then we might be able to get together, which would be really great, I think, because all of us haven't really connected in that way. And it would allow us to be more visual in our thinking and some things like that. So I would, if it's possible and we could still meet in August, Virginia can still meet her budget submission timelines, but we could still meet in August so that before September hits, we can really be driven on what we're asking for and make that compelling case and be all aligned, where we have a little bit of breathing room to organize that.
Thanks, Donna. One thing that I would also remind the committee members too is that in preparation for that meeting, please take a look at the cultural plan ahead of time. I just have it open here right now. And if you look, starting on page 39, there's an implementation plan that gives estimated timeframes for actions to be taken and estimated cost ranges for those items too. So being familiar with that sort of stuff ahead of time will go a long way to advancing our discussions on that day in August.
Could I ask that we be sent the cultural policy?
Sure.
I wasn't really organized. I know I got it, but I'm not sure I can find it. I've now gotten organized and, got a file for this committee, a digital file.
No problem, Larry. Actually, I have it open now, so I can send it to you. I'll send it to the whole group just so that
Thank you.
it just is easier, and it's one less thing for Virginia to do.
Sorry, Sean. it's
Yeah,
Katie.
Katie. Hmm.
I have the cultural plan open as well, and I've been looking at it throughout the conversation. Is it possible, like when we're looking in August, can we get an update from the city on where we are in relation to some of these goals? Like if they have been achieved, if they're partially achieved?
That's a great point, Katie. And I think Todd's been sort of tracking that as we go. So I think that that's something that would probably be pretty easy to provide. Todd, did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I think we sent that out in the first package to everyone in your introductory package there. And I know the meetings got a little messed up back then, but everybody should have a copy. But we can resend these documents to everybody if you'd like, just as a refresher.
That would be great.
Find them in your email, because we sent all that kind of out in the beginning, but it's been a while and lots has happened in the meantime. So I think maybe we just send out a refresher of all the plans, policies as they exist, and that'll be helpful for everyone.
And Todd, I think that tracking document to show which ones we've actually been working on, because we do have some updates since you sent that out. We're working on the website.
Yep.
So that's underway right now, the Arts and Culture website. So
I'll go through it again.
Yeah, coming through soon. So
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Wonderful. Okay, so Kathy had to exit because she had another meeting at 5:30. We are rapidly approaching 5:30, which is the official end time of our meeting, I think. Are there any final motion or items for discussion during the brainstorming that anybody wanted to bring forward? I see none. Okay, so that brings us to item 7. Any correspondence with the committee? Virginia?
no new correspondence.
Great. Then item 8 is our next meeting, which will be September 22nd, 2021 at 4:30. So mark it in your calendars. And we'll have a doodle poll circulating soon related to the special meeting that we'll have in August. And item number 7 is adjournment. Resolved that this committee now adjourn. Could I get a mover? Moved by Donna, seconded by Andrea. All in favor, please remain silent. Everybody else, open your mic and say so, or indicate so in the chat. Great, motion carried. A surprisingly efficient meeting, ending right on time at 5:30. And great to see everybody. Enjoy the warm air while it's still clear.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks, everyone. See ya.
Night.
Thanks, everyone.